What does a good kind of application look like for a Waitrose or John Lewis partnership, a kind of application?
Do not prepare an answer for all of the interview questions that we have. Prepare examples that could be used for the interview questions.
How did you come to work at John Lewis, and how long have you been there, and what's keeping you there?
Oh goodness, I have worked at the partnership for nearly 14 years.
Why would I choose John Lewis over any of the other retail options that are ahead of me?
There's a number of reasons why. One is really feeling like you're a part of something. Loads of people in this business have been working here a long time, and the reason we've all been working here a long time is because...
Hello and welcome to another Candidate Journeys episode of the Open to Work podcast. I am super excited today because I'm joined by Joe Speed, who's the talent acquisition manager at Waitrose, which is part of the John Lewis partnership. For anyone who doesn't know John Lewis around the world, they are I'm a massive fan. I've been shopping at them for absolutely years. My whole family are big John Lewis fans, and so it's super exciting to have the one and only Joe Speed here. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Joe Speed is I think should be the name of some sort of action hero. So I think if anyone's listening to this who's a up and coming writer, Joe Speed I think should be maybe the title of your next action hero.
It's a brilliant name, yes.
Okay, but we're not here to talk about action heroes. Well, maybe we are. I don't know. You will get into it. But why don't we start with introducing yourself a little bit more? Like who is John Lewis if you haven't come across them before, and what is your role there?
Of course. So my name, as Matthew said, is Joe Speed. I am talent acquisition manager for Waitrose Retail. So effectively, I look after the team who recruit for all of the Waitrose shops across the country. So I think we've got about 329 at the moment. I also work with the retail team on the strategy and actually, what we want, how we want to get really good partners into the store. So for anyone that didn't know, John Lewis Partnership is split up of four lines of business. So you've got John Lewis, you've then got Waitrose, you've then got two newer lines of business, so financial services and build to rent. The main ones that people know about are John Lewis and Waitrose, right? So obviously John Lewis, you go through your department store, and then Waitrose is where you hopefully all shop for your food. We have about 75,000 partners who work for us at the moment. So it's a really, really big business, and that fluctuates obviously throughout the year due to demand.
Yeah, of course. And we're recording this at kind of the end of August. So we're running up into probably one of the biggest hiring sprints you'll do throughout the year, I suspect.
Correct. So we call it peak. So we recruit thousands of partners into both John Lewis and Waitrose. So obviously in John Lewis, we want them in time for Black Friday, and then to see us through hopefully the Christmas rush. And then in Waitrose again, we want more partners in our store for Christmas to help everyone out with their shopping.
Yeah, fantastic. So you've used this term partners a couple of times. Maybe just elaborate on what being a partner at John Lewis really means.
Yeah, of course. So I should say, when I'm talking about partners, that's actually what we call our employees. So the John Lewis partnership is a really unique business because actually it's every single partner, so every single employee has a stake in the business. And that means that we all basically get a share of the profit. But it also all means that we're really invested in actually the partnership succeeding. We're all called partners instead of employees because we do have that share in our business. And it just means that actually everyone is really, really invested in how the partnership's doing, and everyone is working towards a common goal of effectively making more money so that we can all, get a bonus and that the partnership can be a real success.
So, and obviously I can imagine, we all are familiar with I think a lot of people are familiar at least with the concept of partnerships in law firms and kind of massive management consultancies where these partnerships are you're getting massive amounts of money for the work that you're doing. But what does this mean for someone who's working in a store? Are they still a partner as well?
Yes, so absolutely. Everyone is a partner after they've got through a 3-month earning membership, which is effectively a probation period. And once you pass that, you will be a partner. Being a partner basically means you get to have a say in how the business is run. So we have various democracy channels that run through the organisation at like branch level and local level, right up to sort of our partner forum. And every single partner and every single person that works in a shop or a head office or warehouse or distribution site basically can say what they think should happen in the business. And that then gets fed up through the channels, and obviously ones that everyone agrees on, get taken and discussed, and to see if they can work. So, for example, we recently had a bit of a pension review. That was a couple of years ago now, but actually every single partner got a say on if that pension changed or not. So instead of being told about big changes, we all do get a view. But yes, every single person that's worked there over three months.
So it's sort of like part equity holder, part kind of union.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because yes, obviously we don't have unions in the partnership, but actually it's like that in a way, because if you think something's not being done right, you have the absolute right to challenge that, and that can be something that again is at branch level or at partnership wide. So absolutely.
And let's talk a bit about you. So how did you come to work at John Lewis, and how long have you been there, and what's keeping you there?
Oh goodness, I probably shouldn't say my age when I say this, I have worked at the partnership for nearly 14 years,
Wow.
Which feels mad when I say that. So I started when I was 19 and I was fresh out of college, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, to be honest with you, but managed to get a role within the payroll team at the head office. Again, this is probably showing how old it is, but my first role was to open the post back when we had post. So yeah, that's how long ago it was.
Were people sending in CVs by mail back then?
Yes, so it was actually the payroll team, but it was like P45s. We got sent in by mail. And obviously, a massive business, we got a lot of P45s. So I started doing that, and I guess what I really love about the business and what's kept me here, and I'll talk a bit about my journey in a minute, but is just how supported I felt at every single stage of my life. So obviously now as a 30-something, my life is very different to what it was at 90 when I was 19, but I feel like the partnership has very much helped me shape my career, develop me into actually what I want to do, and give me real opportunities to do that. So yeah, I started in the payroll team, so always been around HR, moved over to some data type roles, and then moved into talent acquisition about 6 years ago. I have ran the head office recruitment team, so I looked after about 20 recruiters within that team, and then more recently moved over to the retail side. And I have to say, I'm a little bit biased, but I really love the retail side of the business. I feel like the volume and how many different people you get to interact with on a daily basis is just so good. And I mean, a lot of people say this, but no day is the same for my work, and that makes it, I guess, really exciting and really different, and the reason I've stayed so long.
Yeah, amazing. So you didn't start working on the shop floor, you started working in head office? No,
and you know what? A lot of my team, and actually most people, do start on the shop floor. So it is quite unusual that I haven't. And actually for me, part of that is we have this thing called Helping Hands, which again over Christmas, well, it can be any time of year, but mostly over Christmas, everyone in head office goes and helps on the shop floor. But for me, that just keeps me in touch with actually what it is like for our partners who work in a shop, and actually, how we can effectively recruit to actually help that branch out. So that's really insightful, and I guess what I haven't got because I haven't worked in a branch before.
Yeah, and I love that, because it means that you could, listening to this podcast today, you could be sharing a shift with Joe in a few months' time, towards the Christmas rush.
Absolutely, and actually, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's time to say I am helping out with the interviews at John Lewis Oxford soon. So if you want a job,
okay, so you might even be interviewed by Joe in the coming months. Oh, good luck.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about the interview process then. So,
yes.
So how many people are you going to hire, do you think, between now and the end of the year across Waitrose and the kind of broader GLP? Alderson James are one of the leading people and talent agencies. Since 2013, they've been responsible for over 1,000 people and talent hires, including one in a company that I used to work at. They helped me hire my head of technology TX. So I know the guys there pretty well. They've been responsible for scaling some of the most innovative companies in the UK and the EU. Also recently just launched in the US. So even folks in your neck of the woods now, James, can get involved for contingent, retained and executive search. And they also now do embedded through AJX. So they can do it all.
Across Waitrose and the broader JLP, over 5,000 easily. Short-term partners we will be recruiting for.
Okay, so about 5,000 people across stores. And how many stores will you be recruiting for across the country?
So we have 329 Waitrose stores, a number of John Lewis stores across the country, and also I can't forget our Waitrose, our warehouse and distribution sites that we'll also be recruiting for.
Okay. So let's start with Waitrose then. Let's say I'm keen to kind of do a bit of Christmas work. What can I expect as an interview process or as like an overarching process? From the moment that I discover that I want to join John Lewis or Waitrose, and the moment that I might get an offer. Like, what's the high level overview there? What can I expect?
Yes, of course. So all of our jobs can be found on our recruitment website, which is jlpjobs.com. You may also see our jobs being advertised on Facebook or Instagram or Indeed or other sites, but essentially every single link that you see will take you to our website, JLP Jobs. On that JLP Jobs website, you can obviously search for all the jobs that are there to apply for, but you can also actually have a look at some videos about people that already work here. So, for example, we have a day in the lives of supermarket assistants, of delivery drivers, of all sorts of roles, to actually give you a little bit of an insight. Because I think sometimes you look at a job description, you think that's brilliant, but actually what does that mean in reality? So hopefully our JLP job site gives you all of the information you need to make an informed decision about if you would like to work for the company or not. And hopefully that is a yes, and that you do. So then we require everyone to apply via our website. We can't actually accept speculative CVs just because of the amount of interest we get, the volume. It just wouldn't make sense. So yeah, everyone applies via our website. Our aim is to get back to everyone for a volume role within 48 hours of them applying. So our coordinators, who work really, really hard, and we have a lot of them in our team, and they're really great, but they screen CVs daily, and we'll get back to you to let you know if you got an interview or not, usually within 48 hours. We do actually give our candidates now the opportunity to view all of our, view our interview questions in advance. This has been a recent step we took, and actually we're the first major retailer to do this. But the point of this is to basically make it an interview feel less nerve-wracking. So once you've got your interview with us, you could go on to JLP Jobs, have a look at the interview questions, do some prep if you wanted to on actually some of the answers that you may be given. Our interviews are split into 4 behavioural questions, so they're the ones that you'd be able to prep beforehand if you wanted to, and then 2 technical questions. The technical questions are ones that are more specific to your role. For example, some in Waitrose could be something like, tell us your favourite food, or actually if a customer came up to you and wanted advice on XYZ, what would you do? They're the sort of questions we tend to ask as a technical question, just to get into more insight into how you'd be with customers. So for most of our roles, this is going to sound really vague, but hang with me while I talk you through it. So for most of our Waitrose roles, you will actually go into branch for an interview, and you'll be interviewed by a hiring manager in branch. So that could be a team manager or a branch manager. And again, you will then have the interview in the branch, and then you will hear back obviously after the interview. The hiring manager will then let the candidates know, will then let talent acquisition know if the candidates are successful, and we will aim to deliver an offer to you within 2 days.
So you start off by only jobs only apply for a John Lewis partnership job on the JLP website, and I think that's really important because there are lots of different, there will be lots of other different places pretending to be John Lewis to kind of scrape data and stuff like that. And I think in this world of kind of potential like job search cons and taking advantage of vulnerable people, that's a really important piece of information to call out. You'll then go through a quick recruiter screen and then a hiring manager screen on site. Let's just jump into the application. So are there specific fields or like anything particularly interesting that you want to call out in the application, just if anyone's listening to this before they actually hit apply?
Not really. I think the thing for the volume roles I'd like to call out the most is put down all the hours you are available to work.
Mm-hmm. So Alderson James are one of the leading people and talent agencies. Since 2013, they've been responsible for over 1,000 people and talent hires, including one in a company that I used to work at. They helped me hire my head of technology TA. So I know the guys there pretty well. They've been responsible for scaling some of the most innovative companies in the UK and the EU. Also recently just launched in the US. So even folks in your neck of the woods now, James, can get involved for contingent, retained and executive search. And they also now do embedded through AJX. So they can do it all.
Because that is the thing that's probably going to help your application out the most if you put all the hours that you're free to work down. Obviously, as well as actually tailoring your CV to really fit for a John Lewis partnership role. They would be my two main call outs.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that talent coordinator is reviewing every application. So you're not using any kind of AI or like fancy technology. It's a human that's sitting there and clicking yes or no against a CV.
Yes, yeah. So at the moment, no, we don't use any AI in our recruitment process. But for this part, we do have coordinators, a really great team of coordinators that do look through every application that's put in.
And then you mentioned customizing your CV. So maybe let's pause and say, what is it that you're looking for what does a good kind of application look like for, and what does a good profile look like for a Waitrose or John Lewis partnership kind of application?
Yeah, I think the main thing that we're looking for is having a really customer focused mindset. So being able to tailor your CV, even if you haven't worked in a retail store before, but actually to be able to, prove and provide examples of actually when you have gone above and beyond for a customer is a really great thing to look for at a CV. We're also quite mindful that actually this could be a lot of people's first jobs and they might not have any real life examples. And I think that's when you can sort of come back to actually in a group project at school or college, I did X, Y, Z, which really helped and I worked as a team. And it's that sort of thing we're looking at. So if you didn't have any examples of actually what you've done in a job, it could absolutely be based on, a school or college project or anything you've done in the wider community.
Yeah, for sure. So if you've done like volunteering or if you've, as you say, worked on a school project where you've had to go and maybe like talk to people on the street, which I definitely knew I had to do a couple of those in my geography GCSE, I think, way back in the day. So that would all be applicable. And especially if you've done things like working in like bars or hospitality or anything like that could have been maybe a smaller job before this. I even did a paper route. So all those little things sounds like they add up.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to say we're not looking for a sort of one size fits all perfect partner here. We really celebrate diversity, and actually what makes the partnership unique is that we really encourage people to be actively and authentically themselves. So we are not expecting, a perfect polished person to come to an interview, but if you're showing enthusiasm, that is really great, and that's really what we want to see.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that the next stage was speaking to a recruiter. So someone within your team by the sounds of it, and that they'll be asked a series of behavioural and situational interview questions.
So that's what they will be asked by the hiring manager in branch.
Okay. So they will meet. So do they speak with your team before they go to the hiring manager screen?
No, not for supermarket roles.
Okay.
No.
So on site, then you'll be asked a couple of different questions, and that's a kind of a 30-minute in-store interview by the sounds of it in most branches outside of London.
We give an hour just so that it doesn't feel rushed, but absolutely, it's normally about 30 to 45 minutes, the interview.
Okay, and then you mentioned that the interview preparation. And I think John Lewis, if you haven't seen this in the news, went really publicly. I don't know if they expected to cause quite the splash when they went public with this, but it ended up causing a big splash that they published all of their interview questions online. And I think it's part of the reason why you're kind of here today talking to me. I mean, why was going public with your interview questions so important to you, and how do you think that's played out in real life? We are delighted to be sponsored by Metaview. Metaview is the AI assistant for the interview process. Their AI records and transcribes hiring conversations like interviews, intakes, and debriefs, and then provides a perfectly summarized note of everything that was discussed. That means that you can focus on creating human connections with candidates during calls and save time on the busy work of cleaning up notes after every interview. I've spoken to so many recruiters and recruiting leaders who are loving using Metaview across their organizations. It's saving them time, but it also means that they have more data to make better decisions. So for every candidate and every pipeline, hiring teams can now make confident and informed decisions, and recruiters can finally take control of the interview process. The impact on candidate experience is also massive. Since recruiters don't have to worry about taking notes in the moment, they can really focus on being present and engaged with you. Forward-thinking recruiters at high-performing organizations like Brex, HelloFresh, and Quora are all leveling up their interviews with Metaview. So head on over to metaview.ai/open to work to get started for free on your first 5 calls.
Yeah, of course. So I think going public with the interview questions is just us trying to be really, really mindful of how nerve-wracking an interview can be. That we've all been there, haven't we? Like, whether it be your first interview, your 100th interview, they never feel that great within the moment. And we really, really want to change the narrative on that. And we're also really mindful that people's brains work in different ways. Some people are reflectors. Some people like to think about things. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be really great in a role. So we wanted to give everyone a really fair opportunity to prep and do well in an interview. So yes, we have published our interview questions just to try and give everyone a fair chance.
Yeah. I mean, as a fellow recruiter, I'm like a massive fan of being as public as physically possible with interview preparation materials. There's a lot of data to suggest that people who are especially kind of coming from neurodiverse backgrounds particularly benefit from having interview preparation materials because, and it helps them keep on track and it helps them, communicate effectively. But even for someone who's a seasoned interviewer like you or me, we did a lot of prep before having this conversation, and just having those materials in advance means that you can speak more effectively. And it's kind of incredible to me that more companies around the world don't do this. So I think it's like a personal shout out, like a thank you for like setting a really high bar for other companies around the world and being, and in the UK for saying this is what good looks like and this is what should be expected. And if you're listening to this as a candidate, go and spend time looking at those interview questions, especially ones that sounds like they talk about the customer and how you'd interact with people, because those are the things that you can write down answers to and get ideas for, and help yourself prepare. Just while we're on this topic, and maybe it's a slight aside, but what now that you've published your responses online, have you seen like an impact from products like ChatGPT being able to help people structure or write answers for them?
We do occasionally see things like ChatGPT. Obviously, people structure their answers, and I guess my call out would be absolutely use it if you can, but also try and make your answers still feel authentic, because sometimes it's quite obvious if someone's just reading from a script. So I think they're really good to help you structure your answers, but always remember just to be yourself and don't just read off a script, I guess, would be my top tip there.
Yeah, I can't agree more with that as well. I always tell candidates to over prepare and then stop preparing. Yes. Because if you can over prepare and you can like lose who you are as a person, that makes you special, that makes you unique when you end up reading off something that you've basically scripted. And I think that is, definitely want to prepare, definitely want to have all of those responses and all those potential answers front of mind, but not so much that it actually could end up inhibiting you.
And that's what we say with the interview questions. I guess my tip would be, do not prepare an answer for all of the interview questions that we have, but prepare examples that could be used for the interview questions, because it's the examples that we're looking for. It's not a perfect answer to the interview question. So absolutely, I agree with you there.
I could not agree more with that statement. And that is really, regardless of what role you're applying to, that is a really good piece of interview advice. Okay, so I've done my in-store interview, and what happens after that?
What happens after that? So the hiring manager will then contact talent acquisition to say who has been successful within an interview. We aim to then get back to you within 48 hours, or back to the candidate within 48 hours of the hiring manager telling us who's been successful with your outcome. So that could be an email, it may occasionally be a call, but mainly for supermarket assistant or driver or volume roles, it will be an email. So make sure you're keeping an eye out on your emails, especially in the junk, because we will try and get back to you as quickly as possible. Because again, we're mindful that it's nerve-wracking, right? Waiting after you've been for an interview as well to hear the outcome. So we try and get back to you as quickly as possible.
Okay. Sounds pretty quick process. So from the moment that I apply, how long should I expect this to take?
Yeah, so our average time to offer for the year is 22 days. So that's from when someone applies to when they get an offer. That's obviously, we try and give people 5 days between finding out they've got an interview to the interview being held, because obviously that just gives people time to prep. We wouldn't want to give too short of a time. The average time to start for the year is 31 days. So again, you could be applying for a role now and actually be starting by the end of September. So it feels quite a quick process, but we are also really mindful that sometimes applications don't feel quick when you're in them. So we do try and get back to people as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And do you think that accelerates in this time of the year as well?
Absolutely. Yes, it does. Yeah. We are as well very mindful that, there's many retail businesses out there. We want to get, selfishly, the best candidates that we can. And in order to get the best candidates, we need to get back to people quickly. It's not a good look to, leave candidates hanging. So, yeah, we really aim to try and get back to people as quickly as possible.
Okay. Well, that's a good lead in for my next question. So if I am starting, going into retail this Christmas, and I want to work for the best in the country, why would I choose John Lewis over any of the other retail options that are ahead of me?
Yeah, of course. I think there's a number of reasons why. I mean, again, I am a little bit biased, hence the nearly 14 years working in the business, but there's a number of reasons I think that working for John Lewis and Waitrose JLP is better, I guess, than working for other retailers. One is, like we've spoken about, the whole partner piece and actually sharing that knowledge and power and really feeling like you're a part of something. I think it really goes a long way. And like I've said, loads of people in this business have been working here a long time. And the reason we've all been working here a long time is because it is a really great business to work in. People make lifelong friends from being in stores. So that, I guess, would be one thing. If you're looking to develop your career, never, even if it's a short-term temporary opportunity, that could lead to something so much more. The other thing, I guess, is we have really great benefits. So obviously our pay is market rate, it's great. However, we also provide really great benefits. So whereas that could be things such as subsidised lunches and dinners within branches, actually when you've passed your earning membership, you get 25% off in John Lewis and 20% off in Waitrose, which, may I add, is brilliant for Christmas shopping. But you also get loads of other perks. So the development opportunities you get if you're a long-term partner are really, really great. I mean, like I've said, I've been here nearly 14 years, and I've had loads of opportunities to do, like my CIPD, but also other qualifications throughout the business. I think on a sort of shop-led basis, it's really, for me, actually how nice it feels to be in a branch over Christmas, and the fact that you see everyone pulling together and doing a great job. It would be my reasons.
Okay, I'm sold. All right, so you mentioned that in London it can be slightly different. I imagine this is because of the volume of hiring that's happening in London and the diversity of the stores that you have across London. But why don't you tell me a bit about what it's like hiring and getting a job in London versus the rest of the country?
Correct. So within London, we have a lot of stores within a small space. So we actually do recruit a little bit differently for our London stores to make it easier for candidates. So we basically, talent acquisition, do all of the interviews within in-house, so they don't go out to the hiring managers. And the reason for that is if you apply for a job within London, you basically put down which stores you would like to work in. We would then interview you if you got through screening, and actually then match you to a job and a store that you said you're interested in with the hours that fits. The reason we do it this way is so that a candidate does not have to apply for 10 different roles within the same region. So it just makes it the process a little bit slicker and a bit quicker.
So I don't have to apply for kind of Oxford Street, Bond Street, Paddington, Soho.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
so
just put down on your application form, I could work in Oxford Street, Bond Street, Soho, all of those places. And then we'd be like, brilliant, we have a job in Oxford Street with the hours that match your availability. You've passed your assessment. Brilliant. We can put you straight into that role. So it just makes it a little bit quicker for candidates.
Okay. And so what is kind of one kind of classic mistake that you see candidates make when they're going through this process?
Oh, that is a good question. I think it really is the thing about not tailoring your application to the role that you're actually applying for. So we do see, as you can probably imagine, I think we've had so far over 100,000 people apply for our roles this year, which is crazy.
And how many are you expecting that to be by the end of the year?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm not sure on that. I would hazard a guess. It would go up to about 200,000 with the volume that we're recruiting for.
Yeah, wow. So 100,000 over the next 5 months or 3 months is going to be 100,000 to get 5,000, 100,000 applications to get 5,000
it's over
people.
5,000, but yes.
Over 5,000, okay.
That was a conservative answer, but yeah.
So if you're not tailoring your application, one of those 5,000 people that you're competing, roles, someone will.
Yes.
And so tailoring it just to pull out those elements of customer centricity in your experience can really help you stand out.
Yes, absolutely. And also just being really open to actually the hours that you can work. I guess we run a retail business, and whilst we always try our best to make sure that, partners don't have to work every single weekend, the likelihood is you will need to work some weekends. So I just think it's being a little bit realistic about actually I could work one in every 2 Saturdays, and that sort of thing really helped go a long way because we do need partners in our stores every single day.
Yeah, the more flexibility you have, the more opportunities you open yourself up to, be it location, be it timings that you're able to work. It kind of goes from maybe only having 5 stores you could work with to 20, for only having 3 shifts you could work for 30. They can have a really big scale around the number of jobs and you could actually do.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And what's a kind of candidate that really stood out to you or the team in a positive way?
Yeah, I guess I was thinking long and hard about this. There's probably not one that stands out in particular, but it is the candidates. I guess I'm speaking from experience interviewing partners, but also for what I hear from my team about actually the partners that are being really authentically themselves, and that there's, like I said, there's no sort of standard of a perfect partner, but we want someone to come to an interview and really show enthusiasm and really show actually what they can do to add value to the partnership. So I think it's those ones that really stand out for me, as well as the ones that, so we can do things such as working interviews and I guess extra time and all those things, if you need a reasonable adjustment within your interview. And sometimes actually when partners have a working interview, it's a really lovely success story for my consultants, because someone that may have necessarily not passed a normal, sit down formal interview actually goes and has a working interview, does a few hours in branch, and we can really, really see how they can add value to a store. And I think those ones are always really lovely to be able to get in and get partners a role.
So tell me a bit about this, the reasonable adjustments then. And you mentioned really specifically kind of going and doing a work session in store. What are the options there? How would I go about, if that's right for me, how would I go about requesting that?
Yeah. So when you apply for us via our website, you can tick a box to basically say if you require any reasonable adjustments for the role or for the interview. We in talent acquisition would then look at what you've written in your reasonable adjustments box and I guess make a call on actually what's the best type of interview for you to have. In some cases, it's a working interview. We see them work really well for some candidates, and it just means that actually instead of having to go and perform in an interview, you can really show your skills on the job, and it's just a different way to do an interview, but yeah, they just work sometimes.
I love that because I can think of a lot of people who wouldn't be right to go and sit down in an interview, but would absolutely nail like giving them a really focused, structured task and just being able to deliver against that really well. So I love that flexibility. Okay, so to round us off then, Joe Speed from Waitrose and John Lewis Partnerships, what are your top 3 recommendations for candidates who would like to work at John Lewis this winter season?
Yeah, so I think my top 3 would be research into our company, but also the external retail industry. So obviously our website, I think I've called it out quite a lot now, but also our social media pages are really, really great to giving you some insight into actually our values and our mission as a JLP business, but also actually having a bit of an insight into what's going on into the retail industry is really great to just be able to take into your interview with you. My second top tip would just be to be prepared for your interview. And that could be by taking advantage of our published interview roles, but also just trying not to stress too much about it. It's not a test. We do just want to see candidates being themselves and seeing the value that they can bring. And my third, bit of a different one, but it's just, and I think I've spoken about it, be prepared to stay for longer than you think. Even if you think you're just coming in for a 3-month role, that's absolutely great if that's what you want to do. And we absolutely need those partners to do that. But also there's so many opportunities once you're in the partnership to grow and to learn and to carry on with new roles. I think my main top tip would just be don't think of it as a short-term job, because here I am 14 years later still working within the partnership. So you never know where it's going to lead you.
And for anyone who's listening, she said that with a big smile on her face.
Yes. I think I would have laughed if when I was 19 someone said I was still here 14 years later.
Well, you look at it, it's a testament to the internal mobility and some people who if you're there live and start kind of sorry, let me do that again. I think it's a testament to the internal mobility and hopefully a super exciting opportunity for someone. You never know. If I've learned one thing from being a recruiter is that I never planned this career, and here I am, decades later, having super interesting conversations like this and helping people kind of navigate this really tricky landscape of work. And I just would never have been able to predict that. So you never know where these things are going to take you. Joe, thank you so much. That was such a fantastic episode. And as a reminder to everyone, this is the Open to Work podcast. We're here to help people in navigating this kind of really tricky job landscape we find ourselves in at the moment. So feel free to check out our other Candidate Journeys episode and also our weekly Open to Work podcast, where we're giving you tips from some of the best recruiting and HR leaders from around the world in navigating this job market. And then also jump into our community. opentoworkcommunity.com is a new venture of ours to help bring all of these job seekers together into one place to help them find their next opportunity as quickly as possible with some of the best advice in the world. But Joe, thank you again so much for coming on, and we look forward to seeing you and the rest of the John Lewis Partnership soon.
Thanks for having me.